Good day, I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. It's Thursday, October the 6th, 2022. We've got CEO Jon Dwyer of Gamelancer joining us. Gamelancer is a media company generating paid video content for targeting the millennial and Gen Z video game market with over 32 million followers and 1.7 billion monthly views. I'm happy to have Jon here. Joining us today, the company completed a transformational acquisition earlier this year, becoming the largest video game social media network for Gen Z and millennials. Video games and social media is likely the dominant Gen Z and millennial medium, so these assets and expertise may have massive growth opportunities. I'm interested in understanding how Gamelancer generates revenues and builds upon its substantial social media assets to drive growth and profitability. But please remember, this is not investment advice nor a recommendation. We're here to learn about the company. Jon, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us today. And please tell us about Gamelancer.
Thanks so much for having me, and thanks everyone for taking the time to tune in. I'll get back to our team shortly here, but I just want to jump in and use everybody's time wisely. The reason Gamelancer exists is because what we're witnessing at the moment is a seismic shift in where the attention of the social media viewers is happening, and therein where we're seeing media dollars chasing new opportunities. The past 12 years in social media has really been featured, a main feature has been the hegemony of Facebook, which has been ruling with an iron fist. We saw YouTube make a very strong drive on the long form video side. And so YouTube and Facebook in general have really been dominating the headlines, and they're in the budgets from large media agencies and their brand clients. But we're starting to see attrition in usership on Facebook, which is not news that folks haven't heard lately. And so with that, we're seeing massive attrition in media dollars flocking to Facebook's assets. Why is all of this happening? There is a change that's occurring in terms of the way in which people are watching content, still content, editorial content, things like meme culture, which was so popular 3+ years ago, is no longer vogue in what people are watching on their tablets, their smartphones, or their PCs. They want what's called short form video. TikTok is popular because it provides you short form content on what's called infinite scroll. So if you get it on your tablet or on your smartphone, you can go on TikTok even without login membership and scroll infinitely to your heart's content, the same way that you would watch TV endlessly. And so with this experience, a massive increase in users, we're there and seeing a lot of the large media brands and their agencies flock to TikTok to advertise alongside these viral videos. As you can see from the stats, which are readily available across multiple media outlets, whether it be print or video, TikTok is eating Facebook's food front, left, and center. And so what we're seeing in this marketplace is this hegemony changing. We're seeing TikTok now moving to the forefront. I literally just came this morning from TikTok's head office here in Canada. Josh Bloom, their country manager, was giving a great presentation talking about the future of TikTok. And I really encourage people, when you're trying to understand how we monetize, trying to understand how we grow, look at the growth curve that's happening on TikTok usership and the amount of media dollars that are flocking towards this website. It hasn't even started. TikTok will overtake YouTube in 2024. That's still 5 quarters away from now. And so we haven't even really started to unpack the true potential of where this platform is headed. So why Gamelancer?
Jon,
yes,
sorry, I'm going to interrupt here. If you can go back to the other slide. I'm not a huge social media user, but I go on Instagram a bit. And from what I've read, and when you go to Instagram now, all of a sudden, like there are a little more short videos there. You click on it, and then you think you're in sort of your general feed, but they've thrown you into a video feed, and all of a sudden you're scrolling short after short video. And I believe this is in direct response to TikTok, where they realize like the future's there. So not just the ad dollars, what the competition is doing is clearly they're doing short videos because they obviously see opportunity there.
The mentality that short form content is the future of media has been around for, let's call it 5 years. And that's fundamentally based on people's attention span and what we're seeing in demand. If you're going onto YouTube and you're looking at the statistics, if you're going onto Instagram or Meta therein and looking at the statistics, you can see that people aren't engaging on these videos for more than 20 to 30 seconds. If we have a video that hits and people are there for 15 seconds, that's a success, right? If you look at most TikTok, Instagram Reels, which is what you're referring to, the engagement rate on videos that don't achieve virality is incredibly low. So you see this increasing gulf that's happening between longer form content that's not being curated to exist on platforms like TikTok and like Instagram Reels, and it's just not achieving success. The same videos that go viral, by the way, on TikTok, you put them on Instagram Reels and they go viral as well. It's about quality and it's about authentic engagement with the audience. Just like a TV program is really successful because a lot of people like it, think of TikTok the same way. There's no voodoo or mysticism around what makes a video achieve virality and grow throughout certain communities. It's all about what people are liking. And so if you're broadcasting content that's vogue, you stand an incredibly high chance of having viral videos and brands wanting to be part of what you're doing.
And I guess your content, not to maybe get ahead of the presentation, if it's good on TikTok, it's a good 30-second video, you can throw it on Instagram and the same content will likely get the same kind of attention there. So it's not really it's short form video specific, but same video can be thrown on Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, Twitter or anything, right?
Absolutely. As you'll see when we go through this presentation a little later on, we're doing Samsung's largest digital campaign Canada-wide this year. It's a 6-part series that runs for the rest of the year. I think our second video comes out tomorrow. So we captured all of that content. We shot it at locations across Canada with Samsung and North Strategic, their agency partner, and that was broadcast on their channels. So they're choosing it to host it wherever they like. But thematically, what you're doing is capturing TikTok style videos. And so what TikTok has done is created an algorithm and a platform that is designed to reward engaging video.
All right.
So with that said, Gamelancer owns the largest multi-channel network on TikTok. We're actually now up to 32 million of followers across TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. And we own marquee properties. This is a very important distinction. In the world, when you're looking at names in media or in gaming, understand the language that they're using. When Gamelancer talks about what we own, we have owned and operated channels. We own the channel gaming. If you look up the word gaming on TikTok, if you're in China, if you're in Brazil, or if you're in Toronto, you're going to come to our page first. You're going to see content. We're populating over 100 videos a day across our 27 channels. And you can see the followership is massive. This page actually just trended to 7.6 million followers 2 days ago. And the most important part, as you can see here, 43% of our viewers on this channel alone are in the United States. If you're an advertiser or an agency, you want to see an audience in the United States, the UK, Canada, or Australia. If you start to look at multi-channel networks on YouTube and where they're generating a lot of their views from, these views that are seen in campaigns to say, hey, look, we reached 50 million people. How many of those people were in regions where the brand is trying to access them? That's really important. And at Gamelancer, that's really high on our agenda of deliverables to our clients. And so, again, it's important to note, we own these channels. So when we broadcast content, when Samsung, the NFL, the NHL, the NCAA, clients that you'll see we work with as we go through the slides, as they come to us, they want to know that we are creating content that we articulate and we can control the broadcast. So when we work with clients like the NCAA for Pac-12 football, we're geolocating to those specific regions across the United States on TikTok where these activations are happening. Why? Because we own our channels. So here's our 14 TikTok channels. You can see we've got what we call our amplification channels, which is at Gamer, at Gaming, at Gamelancer, and at eGrow. These are our 4 larger channels that you'll see on here. And then the smaller, the 10 others, are game specific. So Rocket League, Roblox, PUBG, Minecraft, and we're seeing meaningful engagement. So if we have clients that want to talk with the Roblox audience, we can broadcast across any of our specific channels to be able to reach that demographic. having this data and owning the network and owning the data that we're mining on what's occurring on our channels is vastly important when working with brands, because at the end of the day, the era of esports being vogue and cool and gaming getting you over the finishing line is over. All of the brands want data. They want you to be able to show what we call attribution, which is that you can show your moving units. You can show click-through rates, how much time they're spending on the video. Are they liking it, commenting on it, sharing it, bookmarking it? All of this information is so crucial to demonstrate to the client how you're creating engagement. And so we do that at Gamelancer through 3 different strategies. Our first is organic. So we have 32 million people. Let's just take a moment to think about that. TikTok has 1 billion daily active users. We've got 32 million of them. 3.2% of the global TikTok audience follows our pages. That's very meaningful. So if you're a brand and you come to Gamelancer and you want to do an activation, you're Sony, you're Belkin, Royal Bank. We have our first RBC content going live in November for Financial Literacy Month. These brands are coming to us because we have an organic connection where we have this audience that spends upwards of 3 hours a day with us every day. The second piece, as I mentioned, is targeting. We put on campaigns, we're curating them in-house with our own influencers, and we're generating views by broadcasting on our channels. But for instance, I'll give you an example. We've got a game coming up with the NCAA. It's Oklahoma versus Texas. It's one of the biggest NCAA Pac-12 football games. We're their TikTok partner for the game. We're going to be, through our customer, ESPN, which is owned by Disney, we're going to be driving viewers from TikTok to make sure that they're watching this Pac-12 NCAA football game. How are we going to achieve that? We work with our partners at CAA, Creative Artist Agency, to get NFL players that played for these alma maters. We shoot content of them playing video games, talking about this big game coming up, and then we are going to geo-target the content we're making to those specific areas. So if you are an Oklahoma or Texas alumni, or you live in those regions and you're on TikTok, you're going to see our videos. That's the beauty about having this massive network and about being hand in glove with TikTok. And that brings me to the last piece, which is paid. When we run these campaigns with clients, large agencies or brands, as part of the campaign, we are going to allocate a particular amount of spend to have what we call boost in any specific region. So for this NCAA game in Oklahoma against Texas, we're going to geo-target to this specific region, and then we're going to pay TikTok additional what we call ad boost to essentially put our videos on the For You page, which is the top 3% of all TikTok videos. We're going to achieve that organically because we have the largest audience, but to bolster it and to make sure that we're getting engagement, we're paying to make sure that people in those regions are seeing our content. So this kind of triumvirate of an approach to monetizing is really crucial and can't be achieved unless you own your channels. So if you own any other media companies, if you own anyone that's similar in contrast to what we're doing, talk to them about their owned and operated channels and their ability to broadcast, because what that lends it to is owning the unit economics. And we can talk about that a little bit later, but this is another important criteria about what we do at Gamelancer. We own our own creative production studio in Vancouver. We acquired this company, Joybox. So Joybox does all of our curation. So we're not just a bunch of nerdy video gamers who create all this content all day for people to come on and watch. We're actually curating content that's important to that 12 to 35-year-old demographic, working with a variety of different communities to have engagements with multiple brands. I just want to talk really quickly about this brand here, No Filter. So No Filter is owned by Thorn. Thorn is an entity that's owned by Aston Kutcher and Demi Moore. It was given a $200 million grant by TED, which is the organization that puts on TED Talks. And we do all of their creative. If you're seeing No Filter or Thorn on Instagram or TikTok, it's creative. That's us. Gamelancer, through our ownership of Joybox, has curated that content that you're seeing. And it's all about engaging with young people to make sure that they're not sharing sensitive information on the internet. People that are coming to the internet for the first time and publishing videos, content, etc., that they could live to regret at some point in the future. So Gamelancer is not just this entity that's posting videos and then stuffing ads in. We're curating, we're creating an approach We're part of the thought leaders that are helping this evolution in the marketplace towards short form video, towards the adoption of this new hegemony of TikTok being at the forefront of social media. And we are part of this tectonic shift that's happening currently. And that's really important distinction for us. You can continue to see, this is through Belkin. So Belkin is one of the largest manufacturers of electronic products like headphones, chargers. They're in a constant battle with companies like Apple in order to win over consumers for things like wireless headphones. And so if you go on to Belkin's TikTok channel, which is now over 100,000 followers, we curate everything that you're seeing there. They took a real bet on Gamelancer and said, we've never done anything like this before. We're seeing, again, customers like RBC as well coming to us to say, we understand that TikTok is the forefront of the new future of social media. And what Gamelancer allows them to do is to test their engagement, to have a brand and a partner that's going to create your content for you, that's going to distribute it across TikTok on our own channels, and also have them hosted on your channels, as you can see here by Belkin. Again, go to all these clients, go to Belkin on TikTok, go to No Filter, and obviously check out our 14 channels as well. And you can see that these are meaningful engagements. These aren't one-off contracts. It's not one quarter. These are multi-quarter engagements where we are partners to these large brands.
So can you just go back a couple of slides to the
Sure.
Belkin one or whatever?
Here's Belkin, yeah.
So for Belkin, you are managing their @Belkin feed on TikTok. Is that correct?
Providing them the content. So we're curating the experience. If you're a brand and you get on TikTok tomorrow morning, you can't just post one video. In order to be successful on TikTok, you have to create a narrative that people come back to and watch.
Okay. And when you say curate, you produce it. You hire guys or have employees with video cameras and actors or people that do the thing. And so curating is creating. So we're producing. So we own Joybox Studios. Please go on to TikTok, look up Joybox or the Joybox. You can see all the content that we're producing there. So we own our own studio where we're producing this content, and we're also producing it on the fly. We get RFPs from companies like ESPN, and I'll just scroll down just for the sake of this discussion here, just to ESPN. So this is our first deal that we did with ESPN. We were the TikTok partner for the Stanley Cup Finals. So the NHL, Major League Baseball, football, beyond, everyone essentially but the NBA. The NBA is doing an incredible job of engagement with young people. But for the most part, you're seeing massive attrition of young people watching sports on television. They're watching highlights. They're watching little snippets of it on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, but they're not actually tuning in and spending the duration of the actual game and watching it. And so if you're ESPN or ABC or any of these other providers, you're seeing your audience shrink. So we're actually in the very same world as they are. You can look at us like a conventional broadcaster. So ESPN wants to make sure that their numbers are going up because they're selling advertising against their broadcast. But the problem is these broadcasts are getting taken and cut down into a great touchdown pass, a great goal, a great home run, and then they're being broadcast on TikTok openly. So they're losing their ownership of the follower, of the people coming and watching the broadcast. So they come to companies like Gamelancer. And as you can see here, we, through our relationship with Creative Artist Agency, one of the largest agencies in the US, we got three of their top NHL players, Trevor Zegras from the Anaheim Ducks, and then the Hughes brothers. We went to their homes respectively. We shot content in their houses, just candid video of them playing video games, talking about the Stanley Cup Finals, creating a link between the Gen Z community that's watching TikTok and the actual players that are on the ice. They're the same age. They're the same people. They just happen to be pro hockey players. They're playing the same video games. They have the same interest, shop at the same stores. So what we're doing is we're a conduit to demonstrating to ESPN in this case that we can create content that shows a linkage between the product that they're broadcasting on what we call linear television broadcast, which is your TV, and the same kind of people that are living on TikTok. So we're basically putting the two of them together.
So through this activation, we drove 8.6 million views, 84,000 likes across 45 posts. And it was all about getting people to watch the 6 games of the Stanley Cup Finals.
And so this content here, interviewing Trevor, that would be on the ESP channel, but then you'd also drop it into one of your Gamelancer channels since they're playing video games and that, and sort of get cross promotion on it and that, or?
Yeah, this campaign lived. So this campaign is all about bringing TikTok's audience to watching television. People don't watch, if you're under the age of 30 years old, you don't watch TV anymore. It just doesn't happen. And so how do you engage this audience? How do you bring them back? You see it now. The NFL is doing streaming. Thursday night football, you can't watch it on TV. It's streaming. And so this opportunity that it's presented, again, is this seismic shift that's happening. And what we're saying is this is an easy to understand story. Do your kids, your nephews, your nieces, whomever it may be, are they watching TV? No, they're watching our channels. So now conventional TV, be it ESPN or others, are coming to us and saying, you guys own TikTok. You know how to speak to this audience. You have a really sticky engagement. So why don't we curate some content, have it live on your channels, and have Trevor Zegras or the Hughes brothers say, hey guys, I love gaming, but make sure to click the link in bio, pointing up or down, and go to ESPN.com and watch the Stanley Cup Finals to see, Team X win. And so this kind of authentic engagement, I mean, I'm 38 and I'm old in our company, right? So it's mostly people between the ages of 18 to 30 that we're engaging with in these brands for this specific content. But even as young as 12 and beyond, these kids aren't watching the NHL anymore, especially in the United States. We wouldn't feel that here in Canada because across all 10 provinces, people are watching the NHL when it's on. But in the United States, they've got a really big problem. And so what we are is a solutions provider.
All right.
So just to go back, these are the clients that we work with. ESPN, which is owned by Disney. I can't tell you how many folks, when we give this presentation, say, why don't you press release that? We ask ESPN every day to allow us press release something about our relationship. They're owned by Disney. Disney does not allow press releases for especially small brands like us. But we have long-term engagements with them and they pay us. So that matters a heck of a lot more than a press release. And they allow us through our decks, through our updates to investors, LinkedIn and other channels, we're allowed to talk publicly about our engagement with a lot of these brands. But a conventional press release is a little outside of their scope, which we understand. But RBC is going to be a long-term engagement for us. NCAA is mentioned, the NFL. We've got our first week with the NFL coming up. We're going to be promoting 3 games the first week of November. We're really excited about that. We've got Nick Bosa as part of the content, one of the most popular players in the NFL right now. We've got some great endemic brands as well. So just to walk you through it, our first content that's going live in November with RBC is all talking about financial literacy. So this, again, was shot in our studio in Vancouver using influencers from the Vancouver area that were all talking about financial literacy, talking about what's important to them. And so what's the value proposition for the brand? Why are they going to come to a company like Gamelancer and spend budget? The idea is that they're acquiring customers. When we were all kids, we banked where the same place typically where mom and dad bank. All of these brand affinities and the experiences now are being shaped online. It's being shaped while your kid is spending 3 hours a day looking at Gamelancer channels on TikTok. And so brands like RBC come to us and they say, the 12 to 16-year-old demographic are the ones that are opening their first checking account. We want them to think about RBC. We want to be part of that experience. We understand what it's like to be a kid. We understand what you need to open your first checking account. So we create content that gets them engaged and thinking about it. Similarly, your first credit card, your first line of credit. Are you getting this 18 and 19-year-old demographic that's going to university? I remember my first day I went to McMaster. My first day, I got a Capital One card. Still sits in my wallet. I don't think I'll ever use it again. But again, I got that first credit card in my first week at school at Mac. But now that entire experience of getting somebody to be a credit card holder, it's happening online. It's not happening in person. And so companies like ours are providing an environment where brands can have a meaningful connection with this audience such that they create affinity and say, I'm going to bank with RBC because they're part of the ecosystem where I spend 3 or 4 hours a day.
All right.
Belkin, as mentioned. Samsung is our biggest partner here in Canada. We adore working with Samsung. They're so much fun. We started with them at the beginning of this year. Our first campaign was on January 8th with Fred VanVleet and Chris Boucher from the Toronto Raptors. It was promoting the Samsung SSD memory card and the 32-inch Odyssey gaming monitor. That campaign was so successful. Samsung sales of gaming monitors went up 41% quarter over quarter in Q1 of this year and led to countless other business with them, including us producing their largest campaign of the year, which again, if you go to Samsung Canada on Instagram or TikTok, the content that you're going to see around their connectivity campaign, that's all Gamelancer, and it's running for the rest of the year. You're going to see Faisal Kamisa, the morning host for Sportsnet. He's part of this campaign. Our man Fred VanVleet is part of the campaign, and a variety of others. So we also have our first contract starting with Samsung in the United States around their ARC monitor, which we're also doing that campaign here in Canada for Q4. So all things equal, Disney and Samsung really are our two biggest clients. And again, all the brands that you're going to see here as we go through this presentation, these are not one-off engagements. These are multi-quarter engagements where they're not just coming to us for broadcast. They're not just coming to us for creative content. We are that one-stop shop. We are creating content for the biggest brands in North America. We're teaching them how to engage with potential consumers on TikTok. And then we're broadcasting on owned and operated channels. So we can tweak video. We can populate it at certain times onto pages. We can provide paid ad spend and geo-targeting at specific times to make sure that we have maximum engagement. So this whole idea lends itself to the notion, which in any business, you want to eliminate your externalities. And that's what Gamelancer does very effectively. We own all the elements. We own the creative, we own the network, and we own the distribution. So having all of those three together allows us to provide all of these brands a seamless engagement. Just going forward, so Razer gaming chairs, Turtle Beach, G Fuel, the largest brand in drinks for gamers. These companies, as well as Celsius and a number of others, these companies have been long-term partners of Gamelancer. They are month-over-month participants where we can forecast them well into the future. And those brand names just continue to grow and grow. So for this coming year, we're forecasting a little over 18 million in revenue. We're going to have our biggest quarter, Q3. Q4 coming up is going to be our biggest quarter by a country mile. We're very, very bullish on what's happening in the future. Just for folks that are going through our CDAR profile, looking at the revenue, being like, hey, I'm scratching my head here. I don't really see this translating into what's currently out there. It's important to note, Gamelancer, we were originally Wonder Gaming. Wonder Gaming was a customer of Gamelancer. So Gamelancer owned this multi-channel network on TikTok, and we were selling media for them. When we won the Samsung campaign with Fred VanVleet, the Gamelancer team agreed to sell to us. We raised $10 million with great thanks to the Desmarais family and my business partner, Max Desmarais. And then we acquired Gamelancer. That transaction closed formally on April the 14th of this year. So we've really only owned the asset as of April 14th. A lot of Q2 was putting the two businesses together and getting the whole team integrated, which was fantastic. So we hit the ground running in Q3, Q4. So you can expect some big years ahead from us. And in only owning Gamelancer formally for 5 months, when you go back to our partnership page, these brands weren't there. We didn't have RBC. We didn't have the NFL and the NCAA and the NFL. We've been able to, and the NHL rather, we've been able to land these monster clients, including Belkin, in 5 months. Imagine what we can do with a year. And all of them are multi-quarter contracts. It's not a one-off. That's super important to continue to focus on that. I'm sorry I keep driving it home, but it is important. So can we go back to the revenue slide there? Sure. And you mentioned your quarter, like your Q2, like that's June end, your Q2, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you had kind of half a quarter there. You've got integration, acquisition costs, and so forth. So it's not really representative. So Q3 is going to be a little bit more. I presume there'll be some integration and a bit of messiness in Q3 as well. But then like kind of Q4 going forward, and then especially next year, that those should be kind of cleaner quarters to really see how the business operates.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we posted 520,000 in Q2, which is not going to get anybody excited. But I think it's representative of where this growth is heading. Again, I really encourage people to understand the stage that this business is at. You'll see our Q3 is going to be very strong. Q4 is going to be even stronger. We're going to get into the habit of posting these multi-million-dollar quarters and give people the kind of confidence. What we also are, by the way, is a unique lens to have ownership of what's happening in the world of media on TikTok. By owning GMNG, you have this unique arb on the market such that TikTok, which is a privately held entity, and by the way, is going to continue to be one, they're very little incentivized, certainly in this market, to go public. That is, creates a limited amount of opportunity for people to kind of own what's happening in how TikTok transacts. And I think we're a direct corollary to how you're seeing their business grow, how you're seeing adoption. One of the things that we hear all the time is folks say, hey, look, there's so much dialogue around TikTok going to be banned in the United States. Look, a lot of that is hyperbole. You start to look at what ByteDance has done. Their entire staff. I just came from their office here this morning in Toronto. Their entire team is populated by former YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook staff. I mean, these are people that are looking at TikTok and they're saying, this is about to perform like Facebook did the past 12 years. And right now they're putting, the plumbing and the electrical into this city, but they haven't even begun to really show everybody what the infrastructure can do. So follow TikTok. People need to be more thoughtful about it. You see, again, a lot of hyperbole, a lot of people throwing out what I think are very xenophobic ideas that you can't have an entity with majority Chinese ownership operate here in Canada. Somebody go tell Tencent, Ubisoft, that, because Tencent just bought over a third of them. If you start to look at North American assets and the entrenched ownership by foreign nations, not least of which being in China, if that's the logic people are going to hang their hat on, then good luck. You're going to see some of the biggest companies in the country, in North America, no longer be allowed to operate here. So I think it's a bit of sophistry to suggest that TikTok is going away by virtue of its ownership structure. You go and ask the guys at Sequoia Capital and a number of other the most successful investment funds in North America, and they have massive positions at ByteDance, which is the owner of TikTok. So, with all of that said, we think we're very conservative in our predictions for the future. We're hand in glove with TikTok, and our network continues to grow at a rate that puts us well ahead of anybody that would call themselves the competition.
Your chart here in Q1 of 2023, it's sort of a small green turquoise bar there. And it looks like for the year, you're forecasting close to $20 million. So that looks like it's and it's growing sequentially. So that's maybe a $3 million quarter-ish kind of revenue. Is that roughly the ballpark for? Yeah, I mean,
we haven't provided formal guidance. We'll be announcing the closing of our debt financing shortly, and with that, we'll be providing formal guidance on what 23 is going to look like. But yeah, you're in the ballpark there.
Yeah, I'm just looking for ballpark numbers. Yeah. No decimals or anything.
The number that you mentioned is accurate. That's the direction that we're heading in. We're seeing the clients that we talked about before. In companies like ours, media buyers, especially large agencies, be it Omnicom, Starcom, and beyond, they make very thoughtful decisions on how they allow companies like us in the door. And you start with smaller campaigns with smaller clients. And then you start to go to their Schedule B and Schedule A. We're at that point now where we're becoming part of these organizations and their thought process on how they're storytelling. The key to being successful on TikTok is levering your asset. In our case, it's being these 14 channels or 27 all told and 32 million followers, and being able to demonstrate that they have an affinity for your product, that they have a capability to consume, and that they're actually paying attention. And you're going to accomplish all of that by proving that you're a storyteller that can weave a narrative through this short form video that bring brands into it authentically, that doesn't make the TikTok audience go skip, or go on the worst case scenario, go into the comment section and say, why am I seeing this? unfollow. These are the kind of things that everybody's allergic to seeing. So we've got to go into every campaign with these multi-billion-dollar agencies, and we're working with them to help curate how they're storytelling on TikTok. And so that's again, that's like a pillar in the ground for Gamelancer, and a reason why we're going to be here for years to come, because it's not like we're just working on a one campaign with RBC. There's a dialogue with them. There's a dialogue that takes into consideration their agency and storytelling about projects that come to bear in Q2 23, Q4 23, and beyond.
Well, like any commercial relationship, you try one out. If it works well, then hey, let's do more. If it doesn't work out so well, then maybe they try something else. So you're clearly performing to date, and presumably you sort of extrapolate that out with other clients and so forth. Yep. In terms of profitability, can you give us some sense on, like, through this growth, are you going to be like TikTok and burn lots of money, or is there profitability, or can you give EBITDA? Can you talk a little bit about kind of what investors should be expecting on that front?
Gamelancer will cash flow in 2023. We are very confident and bullish on that. We've done an incredible job of reducing our burn. I think our burn was around, we were under $200,000 last month. As revenue continues to grow, obviously our burn decreases. I can't provide the exact number until the MD&A and our financials come out. But I think people will be very happy to see when they look at what we were burning in Q1, Q2, Q3. We're also reacting to what's happening in the macro environment. You probably saw recently, we retired our NFT asset. NFTs for us were always a product offering. We were never an NFT business. When clients come to us and they engage with the Gen Z audience and the millennial audience, they see NFTs, for instance, as an opportunity to create engagement, create an opportunity for the client to think about your product at some point in the future. We didn't see traction in that space. We didn't see it monetizing quickly enough. And so, as an operator, you have to ask yourself the hard question. Am I worried about the optics, about what the market is going to see when I say, hey, I'm writing off my NFT asset? Or am I worried about the long run of the business, and to say, yeah, short-term pain, but this is consolidating our story. We're focusing on where demand resides. And that's really how our brains function at Gamelancer. We chase demand. We're populating content on a daily basis to an audience that's growing 50,000 people a day. And that's not 50,000 people watching a video. That's coming to our channels, clicking the button, and coming and spending every single day with us. They're spending time with Gamelancer, watching our channels the same way that we all did when we were whatever age, even now, watching far too much television. And so that's the experience that's happening. And so to answer your question, we will cash flow in 2023. We've continued to dramatically reduce our burn. We've tightened up in certain portions of our business, not least of which being the NFT side. Our website, Gamelancer.com, we're hearing what investors are telling us. Gamelancer.com was an editorial website that was focused on creating editorial content for the gaming community. I had relentless. People were coming to me and saying, I want to be able to go to Gamelancer.com, get editorial content, but I want to know about the business. Just get me your story in 3 minutes. And so we're making these changes. You go to Gamelancer.com right now and you can see it. So we're very adaptive. And not only adapting with the macroeconomic themes that we're seeing, scarcity of cash. Obviously, the bid is light on every micro cap right now. So we've got to have a tremendous amount of respect for the cash that we have. And again, I can't thank my business partner, Max Desmarais, and the Chrétien Desmarais family for their continued support. They led our financing of $10 million earlier this year. They're leading our debt financing, which will be announced and closing shortly. So, we've got incredible partners that have stuck by us. And in spite of what's happening on a micro trend, and I'm sorry if I'm going on too long, but media has historically been seen as the canary in the mine for a recession. We're not seeing shrinking budgets. We're not seeing these large brands come to us and say, "Ooh, we're going to take Q1 or Q2 off." That's not happening yet. We're seeing the opposite. People are leaning in more on TikTok and these assets. So we're bullish about 23.
On your on your expense side, what do you spend money on? Obviously, like guys with video cameras and real estate for your studios. Do you pay influencers? Do you buy sort of media space? You get by the boost on TikTok. That I presume that costs a little bit of money. Can you just talk about kind of where your spending goes and that?
Salaries. I mean, we don't have big offices. We're not renting out massive studio space. We shoot what's called run and gun, which is we can get into a studio like our studio that we have in Vancouver. The overhead is minuscule, but we can get into a studio, as you saw with our NCAA and NFL campaigns, where we're shooting in the hotel room where the NFL player is before his game, and we're capturing content for that broadcast. So we're very lean and mean in our approach. We've got 44 staff, full-time, part-time, and contractors. Again, go on our CDR filings. You're not going to see anybody taking home a big pile of money as their base. We're very austere in our approach, which is why we've reduced the burn significantly. But, we don't have the albatross around our neck as it relates to a 20-year lease on an asset. We don't have these cumbersome items on our balance sheet that we're consistently going back to our auditor trying to keep alive. We're very realistic about what is and isn't working within our business. And I think that's what's getting us to cash flow sooner. And we're seeing those results. I mean, the coolest thing about Gamelancer is you want to know who we're working with, go on our channels and take a peek. You want to see how successful we are. Look how many views and likes there are. If you go back to the Labor Day weekend, our first NCAA campaign, one of the videos of players escaping me at the moment, but one of the videos has 4.9 million views. You go to the NCAA's pages on TikTok, on Instagram, on Snap, none of them have 4.9 million views. We're achieving this consistently because we own this massive audience. And it's important to note, because we have owned and operated channels, when you go to a company like Samsung, for instance, and you say, hey, look, we're going to do a campaign. They say, we're Samsung Canada. We want to geolocate it only to Canada, nowhere else. You say, fine. So we target it to that specific area. And they say, we want to have 10 million viewers, 10 million views, and 1 million click-throughs. In order to achieve that, if you don't own an audience, you brought up something important earlier, influencers and creators. These are the people that you see on the internet that all your friends and kids and et cetera are watching, and they have these massive audiences. Brands in our space, whether it's gaming or any industry, if they're going to put on a campaign, you have to go to an influencer or to a streamer, people who own an audience, and you've got to pay them to be part of your activation in order to create an audience to actually watch it. And so that's why I always stress the importance of owned and operated channels. So because we own our channels, we hoard the unit economics. We're not paying a big influencer like a gamer or a Mr. Beast or a Tim the Tatman or a Ninja or any of these big guys. They're not eating off of our plate. We have smaller influencers that come from historically marginalized communities. We work very diligently to position people from historically marginalized communities, the BIPOC communities and females front and center, not only in the production that you're seeing on TV, but behind the camera as well, and giving equal opportunity and paying union rates on a lot of different deals, because we own the unit economic, because we're not paying for our views. We don't give a penny to TikTok. There's no revenue share. We own these channels. So that's why there's such massive growth. We generate 1.8 billion monthly video views. We're selling across about 40 million views right now. So the amount of capital that is required to actually achieve and turn this thing into clocking the 300 to 400 million in revenue that we are en route towards in the next 4 years can be achieved with our existing inventory. We don't have to acquire anything. We don't have to hire a tremendous amount of new staff. We don't have to go out and buy a $3 million building. We have the infrastructure. We just need more sellers. We need more at-bats.
All right. And just to sort of maybe in an old man's view, like what is this new business model for like people with a 1980s brain or so? You're kind of a cross between a creative ad agency and your own like channel, like a network channel. You've got maybe go really old back, like the soap operas. They were originally they were sponsored and created by soap companies, and they had soap ads on them, and they created content to get people there. They'd show them soap ads and you're kind of the same thing. You've got your channel, you attract the audience, and then you can sort of put creative content and value generating stuff on there. Am I kind of right?
We're NBC,
NBC,
we're CTV. Yeah. So
you produce content and you put it there and you sell ads on it. Yeah.
So we're creating the content. We own the network distribution. And so we've eliminated all externalities. If you call up CTV, which I believe is owned by Chorus, I could be wrong there, but let's say you call them up and you want to advertise on that platform, the individuals that are selling you ad units, that are selling you this ability to advertise in the channels work for CTV. The people that are curating the content that you're seeing there, unless it's a TV syndication deal, like a big show out of the United States, they're part of that, right? So the network is the nucleus, and the creative and the team around it are driving revenue into it by virtue of all the creative. So we own this network, and we're populating content over 100, 150 videos a day across all of our channels. And as we're doing that, we're integrating ads very sparsely, but we're doing it in such a way that the advertisements isn't a pop-up ad. It isn't a banner ad. It's not like programmatic like you see on YouTube or these other channels where they're interrupting your viewing experience. This is a curated ad. And I use that word curated with importance because it's very thoughtfully done. Right? The brands don't want to be on TikTok and seem inauthentic. The last thing any of these brands want to do is risk being part of a creative concept that lives on TikTok, because people don't watch it passively. You and I could be on TV watching it and say, this sucks, and change the channel, but we can't comment. We can't send it to our friends and say, hey, this is awful, send it to more people. That happens on TikTok. So you have to be very, very thoughtful around how you're populating content, which is why, in a way, we also exist. We could just own the channels and do user-generated content, but to really grow and to own these big relationships and be able to forecast meaty budget, you have to do the creative and own the network.
All right.
So this is the next piece. So everybody is allergic to the size of our cap table, and I get it. 433 million shares outstanding is no fun. But we have 53% insider ownership between myself and the rest of our board members, and we own a considerable chunk of the company. We've got visibility on upwards of 90% of the cap table. We've gone through a lot of shares. We raised capital in a frothy environment, but we've had some really great friends out there that have in the market that have continued to accumulate a position. I think now, this shows our share price at 7. I believe we're at 9.5 as we went into this conversation. Let's go 10 cents. Let's go double digits. And so, the cap table might seem large, but again, please do consider the fact that we have 53% insider ownership, and consider the fact that, this business in and of itself trading at 9.5 to 10 cents is a dramatic disservice to the actual value of the business. Echelon Sales Desk released a note. It was not formal guidance, but it was a thoughtful note that took into consideration the size and scope of our network, compared it to the acquisition prices of items like YouTube, Twitch, and others, and what their users were acquired for. And they said safely, with what we consider a very big discount, Gamelancer is pegged at around 35 cents a share. That was us with 29 million followers, and now at 32 million. So I think if you take into consideration everything that we're doing, the owned and operated channels, the creative, and of equal importance, the brands that we work with, this is a 35, 40 cent stock, every day before you get out of bed in the morning. And so, we just encourage people to, take a look at what's on the offering. We're not being hit by massive dollars in terms of, us having to face $200,000-$300,000 in trading every day of these sellers. A lot of it is tax loss. A lot of it is margin call. A lot of it is people that maybe got into the story and thought it was a gaming story. They wanted to own something that was specifically esports. We're not an esports play. We're a media company that owns an audience of young people, and young people game. They don't watch TV anymore. They play video games. And so if you're a brand and you want to access them, you have to own a media network and a creative that is where these young people live. And that's what Gamelancer, that's why we do what we do.
Well, in terms of growth and where you are a few years from now, like, and just thinking your Gamelancer name, it makes you maybe think you're an e-gaming company or something like that. But you have the opportunity to create channels for in fashion or in sports cars, or I don't know, what other sort of young people. I'm sounding really old here. Other young people sort of channels in that. You're not sort of your media content like distribution company. So if there are other areas or channels you can find, you could grow those as well. You obviously have some expertise on the game sports side of things.
Yeah, we're agnostic as to what video game it's going to be. When you talk about gaming, you're also talking about, like, I don't play Call of Duty, but I play a game on my phone, Peggle, whenever I'm on a plane, or when my 8-year-old or 2-year-old get my phone. But there's other games like Candy Crush. There are games like World of Warcraft. All of this falls into the category of gaming. We would be showing content of people playing chess if that's what kids were watching. But at the end of the day, they're spending, if you're 12, in between the ages of 12 to 35 years old, and you want to capture people, you're going to capture them on TikTok, and you're going to capture them through sports and gaming. Right. So, and that's gaming in any of its iterative descriptions. And so from our perspective, we do own other channels. If you go on the Joybox, you're going to see different style of content than just pure gaming. But again, we are growing. We're growing beyond that scope. We recently changed our name from Gamelancer Gaming Corp to Gamelancer Media Corp, because we are a media company. And so what you're suggesting is definitely something that we would consider as channels continue to grow. We do see a lot of other networks that are in maybe the 100 to 200,000 follower space. But this is an important distinction. If you go on TikTok, look far and wide. We always encourage people, do your due diligence. Find anybody close to us in any category. Outside of maybe style and beauty, and still we're the largest. We are the largest multi-channel network, period. There's not another company that has identified where TikTok is going and said, we're going to go all in on TikTok. And we also own a very large network on Instagram and Snapchat too, but TikTok in particular, and be this partner to multinational brands and agencies where we're doing the creative and the distribution. And so if we see demand and channels growing in other categories, we can choose to pursue those as well. But across the 27 channels we own on aggregate, we're the biggest by a country mile.
All right. I've got a question here from the audience. Who do you see as your main competitors?
It's definitely not gaming centric. It wouldn't be like an IGN or an Enthusiast. I think those are very different companies. They're on very different medium formats. As it relates to editorial content or YouTube, we're very much focused on the TikTok side of things. It is fairly novel, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of branded content on TikTok and owning a network. I think our biggest competitor at the end of the day is conventional television. If you look at media agencies, they're typically throughout its hierarchy, not run by folks in their 20s or even in their early 30s. You'd have mid-management guys in their early and guys and girls in their early 30s, but nobody at the top tier. They're still thinking that linear television broadcast is the future. When they go to these big brands and they're saying, "Hey, your budget this year for your commercial is $8 million," they're not going to be able to defend that budget if they're doing it on TikTok, because it's just a lot cheaper, right? So we are in many ways kind of helping brands and agencies rethink where they can find meaningful engagement with an audience. And I think our biggest challenge right now is getting people to agree with the premise that short form media is taking over. I think people openly say it, but when you're talking about budget, right now we're in the phase where we're getting the $250,000 to $500,000 deals. We started getting the 25 to 50K deals. And so now we're growing and we're seeing these sticky, $500K a quarter. But they're spending on linear television broadcast $50 million that quarter, right? And so we're trying to eke away at that budget. And it's not a huge stretch. We're not going to ESPN and say, crack us off 70 million this year. You look at other brands. Geico just put their entire media spend out for RFP 3 days ago. Geico spends over $1 billion on media a year. And why are they putting it out to tender? Because they know that spending, like, you can't put on TV without seeing a Geico ad. that's not creating engagement. So what these large media brands are doing, 2023 is going to be the pivot. 2023 is where budget is going to start to really shrink away from television, what we call linear television from broadcast, and start to focus on these short form content platforms. And we're kind of standing here with our arms open saying, here's all these case studies from these large multinational brands who are going all in with us. Now it's time for us to see the $2.5 to $5 million budget. And again, that's not a meaningful piece of the aggregate of how these brands are currently spending.
All right. And another question here. How do you see what Gamelancer is doing different compared to the likes of Lad Group and Jelly Smack?
So Lad Bible. Yeah, so Lad Bible obviously is creating content on their channels for that Gen Z demographic. I'd say Lad Bible is pretty risky from a brand perspective. I think it's a bit of a difficult comparison. Jelly Smack, I love Jelly Smack. Jelly Smack is an incredible business. They've raised a ton of money, and they are representing a lot of talent and curating content as well. They are looking at TikTok as a very unique play. Obviously, they are in many ways the biggest and baddest on the block. I think their content's incredible. We'd love to work with them more closely. They don't have owned and operated channels that are meaningful. I think when you look at how Jelly Smack monetizes, and again, people probably hear the word Jelly Smack and they think that's ridiculous. Again, go and do your due diligence on who Jelly Smack is. It's a great business, as is Lad Bible for that matter. I just think they're not nearly as brand safe. We're different because we own the network. We have, again, this entrenched relationship with TikTok. Our whole discussion this morning is about starting to actually shoot our content at TikTok's location here in Toronto, which is really exciting for us. It's also important to note, just while we're on the topic, when Facebook was at its peak in Canada, had about 110 employees. TikTok is nowhere near its peak. They're now over 200 employees, I think, in Toronto alone. So this will just show you how quickly TikTok is growing. But again, I really encourage folks to in their due diligence. My email is john@gamelancer.com. Send me an email. We can hop on a call and chat about it. But I'm fascinated to see other companies that people think resemble ours, that people think have the same value proposition to brands. We're a company that can work with Lad Bible. We're a company that can work with Jelly Smack. And like I said, we admire what they've built and what they're doing, but we think we're different.
All right. What about traditional ad tech companies? Do you see them moving into your space and becoming competitors?
I think potentially. I think they're the ones that are going to acquire us, right? I mean, Gamelancer as an entity has owned and operated channels. These are unextinguishable qualities of the business. It's like owning Times Square, the Champs-Élysées. We have these marquee properties. You can't make another at Gaming or at Gamelancer or whatever it may be, all these iterations. But it's also important to note that there is no voodoo involved. There's no trick for growing an audience. It's engaging viral video. It's constantly unrelenting in your approach towards curating content and broadcasting it on your channels in a fashion that you are reliable. That's why we're here. That's why we're so big, because Raz Van Romanescu and Darren Lopez and Zach Longo and all the great guys at Gamelancer who sold us this asset and are still a big part of our company on the board of directors, all officers and directors of the company and working day to day with us. These guys are real operators. They spent 4 years. They started these channels when TikTok first happened. And so that's the kind of thoughtfulness that went into building where we're at. And so if these larger companies now, like ad tech businesses that are focused on the programmatic side in particular, where there's very little arb for smaller companies like us. Again, if you own other names in the media space or gaming that are programmatic first businesses, just go look at their margin. It's negligible. They'll post massive top line, very little in the way of gross margin. And of course, the EBITDA is not going to be seen. Our goal here is to prove that doesn't have to be the case in media, that direct media sales across owned and operated channels, in particular on TikTok, is the future of building a strong, small, medium-sized media entity. But at the end of the day, the companies that you're mentioning, or the agencies, or the customers that we have, these are the kind of companies that, rather than come and knock us off what we're doing, they can't replicate our network. So end of the day, we're an acquisition target for these companies, not something that's going to be thwarted by them.
So yeah, I was going to ask you, like, if someone were to buy you, would it be like an advertising agency? Would it be a company like CAA that sort of caught that has well, they're in all sorts of media stuff right now. Or could it be like I don't know, a Disney or something? None of those? Or so wave your arms here. Tell us who else could buy you out.
I would say plenty of them. All of those stand a meaningful chance to view what we own as an accretive asset for them. When you think about Gamelancer as an entity in terms of acquiring it, you're buying a network that has an incredible amount of data on who our followers are. So this is an important distinction. Whether you're on a meta platform, be it Facebook or Instagram, or you're on a ByteDance platform, which is TikTok, or a Snap Inc. platform being Snapchat, you're able to mine a specific amount of data that they're even going to give you. So we know your age, your gender, your ethnicity, and we do other things like we can tell if you play PlayStation as opposed to Xbox, if you wear Revlon as opposed to L'Oreal, if you go to Fast and the Furious movies versus The Notebook. We're creating all of these robust data sets around the aggregation of our followers so that we can go with meaningful data, meaningful evidence to our clients, which we have to do in order to show them that there's an ROI on this media spend, and show them that not only do we have an audience of the people that they're after, but that audience is paying attention. You know, they're clicking the links, they're buying the products, they're spending time in areas where your brands are. So who wouldn't want to own that? And so it's not just the creative component. It's not just the asset of owning these multi-channel networks and our relationship with TikTok. It's the aggregate that in the acquisition of a company like Gamelancer, you get a one-stop shop for reaching the Gen Z and young millennial audience. And again, you know, I really encourage folks, Jon@Gamelancer.com. Send me an email with other companies you think are doing something similar to what we have. Own a network on TikTok that's anywhere close to what we have. We're eager to see it.
We got a couple more questions here. We're an hour into this. Go through a couple more questions, or do we need to wrap things up here?
I'm good. I'm delighted to be here.
All right. I'm trying to figure out how to link your business model to the enormously growing online gambling industry, especially in sports betting, including esports. But can you speak to any potential future partnerships in that space for your 18 older market anyway?
So TikTok is allergic to all things vice, alcohol, cannabis, gambling. You cannot run them. We have a partnership with Stake, the crypto gambling company. Big fan of theirs, by the way. We went to TikTok, presented the case, said, can we run it? They basically said no, and we were happy with that. And those run on our Instagram channels. The other item that I think it's important here is I think building businesses around the froth of the media spend around gaming right now is a bit of a fool's errand. It's not possible for all these companies to continue to win and to beat out the DraftKings and the bigger players. I don't say that to cast aspersion on any name in particular, but if you build a business around trying to soak up dollars from an industry that is largely populated with companies just by rational, examination of the marketplace, they can't all exist. Everybody's not going to bet on these different gambling platforms. You got 38 million people in Canada. Let's say, I don't know what the eligible amount of gamblers are. Let's say it's 20 million. You know, I think you've probably got 200 platforms chasing all of those bettors. So for us, you can't put on TSN or Sportsnet here in Canada without seeing an ad about legalized gambling, and that's frothy, and that media money is hard to say no to. But that's not at the center of our strategy. We want big blue chip brands. We want perennial spenders or evergreen spenders, as we call them, which is they're going to be your client next year, and they're coming to you with new RFPs throughout the year, and they're stable. Disney isn't going anywhere. Samsung, Belkin, RBC, these are the brands that we want to be deeply entrenched with, be part of their thought leadership around how they're storytelling on social media. And we just don't see that long-term engagement happening in the gaming world. And when I say gaming, I mean legalized gambling.
All right. Yeah. Well, it's a growth industry like anything like cannabis or whatever. There's going to be huge consolidation, not even just picking the winners, but it's going to get consolidated. That's for sure. A question here. I don't know if I missed anything on this on the due diligence or reading up. Do you have any information on why the $300 million lawsuit occurred?
So we were sued. We were tried to prevent to go public by a company that was affiliated with Ryerson Ventures, where my colleague Mike Cotton formerly worked. They said that they alleged that we had taken an idea from them around the creation of a loyalty platform for gaming. It went before the Ontario Supreme Court. They tried to get an injunction against us to stop us going public. In order to get an injunction, you have to satisfy three criteria. It was completely thrown out. And Justice McEwen was the justice. Again, it's all public record. People can go and look it up. Said that the claim was absolutely ridiculous. They've not done anything since. And we look forward to that matter going away unless they can produce something meaningful, which they have failed to on multiple occasions. So more of an annoyance than a reality.
Gotcha. Well, we're done with no more questions here. Thanks for answering that. Just one sort of sidebar. You mentioned the Desmarais family is involved. A lot of people may not know who the Desmarais family is from. That's a Power Corp, I presume you're talking about?
That's right. So my business partner is Max Desmarais. It's important to note, Max built one of the largest multi-channel networks on YouTube, which he sold about a year and a half ago for 100x multiple, did very well for him and his shareholders. And then the Desmarais family office, which is called Pandion, introduced us to Max. And Max joined as a partner in our business, and their family office and Max personally have continued to contribute capital to the business. And have made some incredible introductions, not least of which creating our relationship with creative artist agencies and a number of others. So, our relationship with the Desmarais family and with great thanks to our business partner, Max, has opened the kind of doors for us that, really puts us head and shoulders above the competition, because not only do we have a great product, but we have investors and people around our cap table that have been historically thought as very thoughtful people that tend to invest in winners. And then they're knocking on the door and making introductions for us. We really do get the time of day from clients because that confidence tends to lend itself to what we're doing.
All right. Well, let's wrap things up here. One thing I always like to end with is, what kind of news flow should investors be looking out for in the next 3, 6, 12 months in terms of like client wins, acquisitions, obviously your quarterly results and so forth? What kind of news flow to keep our eyes open for?
Yeah, client. I mean, we are so eager to be able to press release the names that you see in our deck, and that we share it as widely as possible. We're following all guidance from the exchange and from IROC on how we're disseminating that information, and obviously doing it with our clients' permission. But you're going to see us being able to now press release this and having the client press release it for us, which is really special because it shows that long-term engagement. So you can look for that. Obviously, our financials, we're really excited to show the world how we're growing and how special this asset is in terms of its ability to generate not just meaningful top line, but to demonstrate margin. When we get into our campaigns, we start with the rubric towards each campaign that we have 40% EBITDA. So we don't get out of bed in the morning unless we're thinking that way about a campaign. And so that gives us this ability say we can forecast intelligently as we grow with these clients. And sure, you lose 5-6% in the delta on sometimes you have to give up margin in order to get contracts across the line. Happens in every industry, but we're really thoughtful about margin. We're thoughtful about delivering to clients, a meaningful end product, because this is going to live on social for many years to come. But, in the meantime, if you're ever wondering what's going on at Gamelancer, go on to TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. Look at our channels. Send me an email. We're always eager to tell our story. Get on a plane, come out to wherever you are, and tell a group of folks more and more about Gamelancer, why you should get on the bid and support the company.
All right, John. Well, I'm just chuckling to myself that you're one of the leaders in short form videos, and you just did a 70-minute video with me on a long form channel. So I maybe need to work on some editing here. So Jon, thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with us in long form. And hopefully we can get you back and get some updates as your business progresses. Maybe we'll make it a little tighter, the video then.
No, we'll long form, short form. We love telling our story. Thanks so much for having me on, and look forward to doing it again.
All right, Jon. Cheers. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.